Hey everyone, welcome back to Marketing 100. I'm Kayle, your salon and spa business bestie, and I'm joined today by a special guest. She's back again. I tried to chase her away last episode and she's like, no, I have more to say. And I was like, okay, I guess we can do that. Anyway, please welcome back good friend of the show, Jenni Ashford. Thank you so much for joining us. Jenni, how you doing?
Well, you did just say you tried to chase me away. So
you couldn't stay away.
I love our conversations far too much.
Well, thank you for joining us again, Jenni. I loved your tip for last time, and I'm very excited to hear what you have to say today. Jenni, you know, I know, on this channel, our job on Marketing 100 is to bring salon and spa owners 100 snackable, tactical marketing tips to help them level up their salon business. And today, it's a little bit different. Again, John's not here. He's with us in spirit. But I want to hear what you have to say for us. What's your tip for today?
We got to talk about how culture is king. That is what is driving your growth more than you know.
I tend to agree on this topic usually, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. So I'm gonna let you cook.
Culture is a marketing play in itself. I own a salon in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and one of my favorite things to hear for the last 5 years has been, it just feels different here. And that is 100% based on the culture that we've created in the space, because clients feel that energy. They pick up what you're putting down in the space.
I mean, we've talked about it a bit on the show before, but it's absolutely true that like your energy in the salon is palpable. Like your clients can feel it. It shows. Your client is going to spend like 1 to 3 hours on average with you. They're going to pick up on if something's weird or something's off. If your culture is poisoning that, then your clients are going to notice, they're going to feel uncomfortable, and they're not going to want to come there because it's just not going to feel right.
There's actually a Harvard business study done in 2023 that showed that there's a 20% higher retention rate for salons that operate in that way.
Yeah. Tell me more about that. Cause like, I mean, obviously I agree. Like culture is extremely important. And I think retention is something that tends to be stickier when the culture is like well-defined, well understood, well communicated. And I also think that owners that are extremely involved in like the day-to-day being on an accessible level, I think makes a huge difference. How does this impact your team? Do you think it's more of a top-down thing? Do you think it's something that has to like blossom from within? Like, how does that work?
100% agree with you. It has to be top down. It's got to be a situation where you're leading by example. You're showing up every day because they're looking to you to be a leader.
Makes sense, yeah.
You know what? Sometimes you're going to expose some cracks and some tensions where people don't line up with you. Not every parting of ways is truly a negative thing, because if they're not a cultural fit, it's hurting your overall brand voice. Your team is your brand voice. They're either living out the ethos of your brand, and if they're not, they're watering down that experience for your guests.
It sounds to me like this is very much so in that same vein of you need to be careful with who you associate yourself and your brand with.
There are opportunities within your culture and with your team for coaching. So there's got to be some room to work with, but you can identify the people who want to play, and those are the ones that get to stay.
I think when it comes to marketing, like to bring it back around to that, like obviously your team is one of your best assets in terms of like being able to market your business, because that is the experience that you give. You're providing a place of like comfort and safety and enjoyment and self-care. And if you're not giving that experience, then something's wrong. And very often culture is like a core aspect of that.
That is the hardest part, is the self-discipline that's required as a salon owner to push through the ick and really understand that whatever that little inkling is that you have that's growing it's gonna turn into a wildfire quickly if we don't address it. But it is a delicate balance to figure out, where can I be vulnerable and show some humility, right? Where can I extend some grace to my team? And where do I really need to double down here and recognize this is harming the team and the brand, and therefore our customers that are coming in, to your point, expecting to feel safe and seen in the space.
You're still a person, and you have to show that you're a person. And if you never admit fault, or you never admit like, you know, I could have done this better, or this is something that like was hard for me to see as well. If you're not humble, if you're not a little bit vulnerable, then you tend to be less relatable. How do you approach that situation in your business? Like, what have you found is the way to like own the culture side of that to where it actually brings you out stronger in the end with your team?
I think one of the most sustainable ways to look at culture and how you can set it up effectively is by honestly systemizing your culture a little bit. But if there's not a strong conversation around what the culture of the space is and how it is lived out, people are left to make their own assumptions. So the way you combat that before it even becomes an issue in your space is by building out a system around your culture that you revisit regularly.
Tell me more. Tell me more about this. I feel like you probably could teach me a whole class on this. When we don't have endless amount of time to go over it, but I want to hear your takeaways for our audience if you've got some more.
If you have an established business and you haven't made culture a focal point, it's not too late. I'm grateful that we focused on culture on a granular level from the time that we opened, but that came out of a hard space and the lessons learned there. You can make sure that they have a voice in calling out what they're already seeing lived out in your space.
Especially in an industry where like there's a lot of emotion involved in like every aspect of like the artistry and who we are and our craft and even like the ego that I'm sure that we all try to overcome, but let's be real, it's there. Might be hard to be called out,
It is so important and so valuable for you to step into that space and have your team see you being receptive to their input. So there's a balance to be struck between allowing space and allowing freedom. The goal in this conversation is not for them to just put all their personal stuff on the brand, but for them to sit with the brand and be allowed to be a part of shaping and saying what it is. It gives them greater buy-in.
We talked about a lot with culture today, and I think it can be sort of a nebulous topic in general to approach. So what are some like concrete takeaways that salon owners can take away like right now and go implement today that can help them actually make meaningful change?
Start with that conversation. You can have a conversation with your team at your next team meeting and just start identifying some of those values. One of the most practical ways you can do it is just start with values mining. You can literally search the internet for a list of 100 different values. Ask your team to come to the meeting with the top 5 values they think most aligned with your brand. If you have a team that is probably inclined to attach their own things to the brand, then I would ask them to do the exercise separately, one for them and one for the brand, because then they can get really clear on the distinctions between the two. From there, you can go through processes like, as a group, ranking the ones that came up the most. Think of like a word cloud. There's obviously something to those words that kept standing out for the greater team. And then once you start getting clear definitions on what those words, definitions really help. So just like actually looking up the definitions of the word and sitting with that and making sure that that feels right, you'll start to come out with like these top 3 values. This does not have to be a one meeting session. This can be something that evolves over time. As long as everybody knows the direction that you're going, you're making progress.
I think that's really like the secret sauce there, where it's like, yes, that is personally important to me. And that's how I like to live my life. And I feel strongly about living that value in the business as well, because I can stand behind that. Having that buy-in just builds so much strength in the brand, right? Like if I feel personally invested in that sentiment or that value, then I'm also going to be professionally invested in that when my name is associated with it,
This next generation that's coming up and settling into their workplaces, they want to know that they're bringing value into the space and that the space that they're working in is aligned with them, that they're doing meaningful work that's impacting people in a real way.
You need to give people a good reason to work for you. And people are going to choose to work for you because they feel like your values are strongly established and they align because they know what to expect and they understand what you're putting out there. And I think broadcasting that is really important. I think living that truthfully is really important. Manifesting that in a way that like people identify with is more important now than ever because marketing is extremely values focused. that sort of like human element of it, and that like alignment is really important. So if you take nothing else away from this, put your flag on something. Choose your values, communicate your values, establish these lines in the sand with your team, get buy-in and consensus with your team that they can really rally around. These things genuinely do strengthen the way that you communicate your brand, and they make marketing so much easier, especially when it comes to things like social media, content creation, that kind of thing. Because if you have like a core guideline set there, like you don't have to be like worried.
Yeah. You don't want to spend your time as a salon owner holding your breath every time somebody opens their mouth.
All right, everybody, that's what we've got for you today. Thank you so much for tuning into yet another episode of Marketing 100. What do you think? Is your culture strong, or are you maybe unwilling to address a couple things? Tell us your experiences with establishing your culture, maybe some of the tougher parts of it. Let us know in the comments down below. We want to hear your story. More on that soon. Thank you so much, Jenni Ashford, for joining us again. Where can our audience go to learn more, hear more about you and your business?
Wordsmithbeauty.com, or on Instagram, also Wordsmith Beauty.
If you want more snackable, tactical tips like these, make sure you get subscribed on YouTube or your streaming platform of choice, because we're everywhere. You can't escape us. We're in your homes. Anyway, get subscribed. There's a little button down below if you're on YouTube. It says subscribe. You can press that, and then you'll hear lots more from us. Also, if you want to ring that little bell right there, just tickle it. You'll know every time we post a new video here on the platform. If you're listening, thanks for listening, but you're missing out because we're really cute and you should see our faces. I think you'd really like what we've got to offer here. A lot of cuteness here in this space. If you want to try out the tactics that we talk about here on the show, you can check out our salon and spa software of choice, Mangomint. If you use our link down in the description and probably up on a little card here on the screen, you get an extra bit of free time to test it out on us. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Don't tell anybody. Stay tuned. Next time, we're going to bring Jenni back. She's got more hot takes for you. And again, if you're not looking, you're missing out. So check us out on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode of Marketing 100.